Welcome to this video presenting coverage of Tata Steel Round 8. Round 8 played today, and again a round without any short draws or uninteresting games. It was a big fighting round again, so a really interesting tournament up to now. And I'm going to show all the games like before, and the chosen order of presentation is just by the order of the tournament. How to say? Like it is listed on the tournament website. So I'm not presenting it in any order of uninteresting games first or the best one as the final game. I'm just going through the list, as it is hard to any sort of classification of one game being more interesting than the other. So let's start. Van Vele against Nijdic, the Dutch-German duel here. And Van Vele is playing d4, his usual opening. Check. And Nijdic playing the Bogo Indian, which he rather often employs, but after bishop d2 he somewhat surprisingly took on d2. This is a good line for black. A solid, satisfactory line. It's not an advantage for black, of course, but Nijdic usually goes for c5 here, or sometimes a5. c5 is his main move, and this is a much more fighting choice than bishop takes to 2. a5 is the move I'm going to present in my upcoming book on the Nimzo and Bogo Indian. This book project really is long overdue, simply because I had too much work on my plate in the last couple of months, but it will be finished in the next couple of weeks and certainly be released in the first half of 2014. Okay, let's go to the game. Nijdic took on d2. Check. This is this won't be in my book. I'm concentrating on a5. Bishop d2 is a good line though. As mentioned, it leads to somewhat simplified positions because of the exchange on d2. This line here is very similar to the Catalan. White fianchettos and black. This is a new move, queen c3, and black sets up this typical triangle pawn formation. His intention is to complete development with b6, bishop b7, and a later c5, while the queen finds a good post on e7. This is a very important feature of the exchange on d2. With the dark squared bishop exchanged, black has a good square on e7 for his queen. Quite often the queen, black's queen, is a problem piece in queen pawns openings, because on the c and d file, c file and d file, very often white rooks putting pressure on black's position. So you have to find a place for the queen where it is not in danger of being harassed, and d7 is a very good square for that. This is also a reason why the Lasker variation of the queen's gambit is so solid. Black gets a good square on e7 for the queen, and this is a bit similar to the Lasker, in at least from the general spirit of the opening. Okay, queen c3. This is a new move according to my database, and it's an interesting try by Van Vele. The queen is indirectly controlling e5, so that this freeing move e65 is more difficult to achieve. It in this manner, it's similar to a fianchettoed bishop influencing the center. The next couple of moves are very logical. As mentioned, this is black's development plan, and white expands on the queen side. This is also a benefit of the queen on c3. It supports this move. a5. Black is trying to exchange off the queenside pawns, And ultimately, with this move, he wants to activate the b7 bishop, trying to neutralize white's advantage on this long diagonal. This is the main point very often of the Catalan. The bishop on g2 is a powerful piece, and the bishop being on c8 is not so great. And now black wants to activate this piece so that it ultimately can be exchanged. Yeah, white exchanged on c5. And he took on c5 again, like this. Yeah, and now we come to a position where I think black is pretty close to being equal already. If he manages to exchange off those two pawns and therefore open this diagonal, he shouldn't have any problems at all. However, there are tactical issues, of course. The opening of the queen side now leads to concrete play. If white takes on d5, black can even take with the queen. This is no problem at all. You need to cover the knight, of course, and black may even play knight e4 later. What he tried is queen to b4, attacking this knight and looking at the b7 bishop. Black's reply is very obvious, knight f2 d7. And now he played knight d4, opening up the diagonal and making it harder for black to take on c4. Yeah, rook b8 is a very logical reply. This covers the bishop and again introduces the possibility of taking on c4. Yeah, and now it gets a bit strange. The absolutely normal move here would be actually to take on d5. Something like that, for example. Of course, this is a completely equal position, but there is not much that you can expect here with both sides. It's just very, very equal. However, when Veli played the move rook a7, and while I understand the idea, if black takes, you're going to win the piece. The real issue of this move is the reply bishop a6, and this is what Knightage played. It just attacks the queen, and white does not have much choice. You need to retreat it, and after queen b6, yeah, this queen is attacking the rook on a7, and the rook on a7 is just stranded. It doesn't have any square, so white just needs to give up the exchange. It's simply trapped. And this is quite a remarkable development, because it wasn't exactly difficult to spot this idea. It's hard to believe that Van Vele didn't see the move bishop a6. I'm not sure what his idea was, because right now he just took on a7. On a6 there is nothing else. And after queen takes and the capture on d5 twice, we get to a position where white is an exchange down. He has some compensation for the exchange in the very nice bishop on d5. And he's also got still a very compact pawn structure. He does not have any additional pawn weaknesses or any other simple point of attack presenting to black. But still, it's an exchange down. And white should be struggling here. For a while, Knightage does not make any mistakes. He's improving his position slowly, which is certainly a good idea. You don't need to rush things here. What he needs to make his mind up about is those the placement of the two knights. The knights here are not ideally placed. They somehow are tied to each other. They are protecting each other, but this also means they take away squares from each other, and they don't attack anything. They're rather passive while those pieces are active. and it's not so easy to play for black. It's the type of position where you know, oh yeah, well, I should be better. The exchange is something, but how to actually play it's not so easy. He played rook to b6, which of course makes some sense. It's preparing a doubling of rooks like this. Yeah, rook here. Black plays rook to b2, which looks nice. White just moves the queen away, and this is not threatening much. This is securely protected. It's not so easy to make progress. Well, rook d6 played, and now e4, supporting the strong bishop on d5. And this bishop cannot easily be attacked like this, because the c5 knight is hanging. Like this, for example. Yeah. Now here's also e5, so knight b6 is really a useless move. But what I'm trying to show is that the c5 knight is really a slight liability. Yeah, he played rook to e8, controlling e5, and white went for queen c2. Rook b6 back. And now e5. Yeah, here black needed to play the correct move, and in fact he failed to do so. After e5, he needs to take on e5. This is just the essential move he needs to play. After knight takes e5, it's one line. Rook takes e5, queen takes e5. There is the cool move rook to d6, pinning the bishop, after which black will get some material back. For example, after bishop f7, the king is just recapturing. And here black can still try to win with the exchange up. It's not easy though. I mean, just for example, if white sets up something like a pawn to h5, knight to f4, he's never ever going to lose the game. Especially not with queens on, as black's king is so weak. It's a very decent chances for white to hold. But this is what he should have done, taking on e5. He played queen to d8, and yeah, this is really a big mistake. It leads to a complete disaster now, and there's even more than one possibility for Van Velde to get a great position. The easiest is, in fact, or the most convincing, I'm not saying it is easy to find, but the most convincing is actually knight c6, attacking the queen, and if the queen moves, play queen c4, and this is a substantial threat against f7. Black really has no way to save it. Cannot play here, for example, because of taking first, and then you have this threat knight e7 winning the queen. It's very hard to check to save that pawn. You can play rook f8, but then you have the knight e7 check, king moves, and bishop f7, and this is such a terrible threat. Black is completely busted. Yeah, knight c6 was very strong. Van Velde played queen f5, which is only slightly worse compared to knight c6. It probably also wins the game, but the other one was a bit more convincing. After this move, and black played queen e7 to cover here, he played knight c6 after all, and here knightage has the additional defense queen f8, which does not mean that this is great for black, but it was an additional possibility. Note that the queen on f8 is completely out of squares. It's just a very passive defensive piece. Yeah, knight fd4. The good thing about white's position is it's so easy to play. You just get all your pieces into attacking mode. This is protecting each other. e5 is protected, and black has so much pressure to stand on f7. This is just terrible. Note that you cannot play g6 here because it's hanging. Can easily miss that with little time. And white has a very simple way to improve the position. We will see that in the next move. Knight played rook b2, and then Veli played rook c3, which is simply intending the rook lift to f3, and after that f7 is collapsing. Simple but very effective. Rook c3. Yeah, went all the way back. It's pretty much hopeless to defend. h5, just improving a little more. If he goes knight f3 here, that's also strong. Black probably plays knight b6 and you retreat. It's also excellent for white. But I like Van Veli's move. It's very methodical. What he tries to do is to set up this battery against h7 with bishop to b1, queen h7 checkmate, and h5 just fixes the queen side so that g6 is absolutely never possible. So a good move. h5, played rook a8, and now rook c2 back. This is a preparation for the mentioned maneuver, as we see here. The maneuver with okay, sorry, I missed a little something. After rook a1 here, the move rook e2, what Van Veli played, is okay, but he had an even stronger possibility that, however, is not at all easy to calculate for a human player. The computer, of course, is for a computer it's very easy, but for a human it is not. The strongest move here was e6. And the point is easy to miss after the capture. Well, okay, you can also just take e6, which is good, but the computer finds a strange idea.
Check.
Knight e7 check, queen takes, yeah, the only move, and then knight e6. And this is in fact absolutely crushing, because now white threatens multiple discover checks and black has no defense, absolutely no defense. It's the comp is on +7 after just a couple of seconds, and probably with getting a bit deeper in calculation this will even increase. One point is the threat knight g5 check. So if black plays nothing move here, let's say here, yeah, there's this
Check.
enormous check.
Checkmate.
With this point, and yeah, it's just completely gone. But knight e7 is very counterintuitive. Bishop e6,
check.
However, also wins. This was another good
check
possibility, winning easily. He played rook e2, improving, or he tries to improve his position before he does anything decisive. That's worse though. It's not an immediate win anymore. Knight b6, bishop a2, and here black probably needed to retreat the knight again. He played queen to a8, and yeah, this is ultimately losing. But I don't think that black had much chances to survive this anyway. This bishop b1 move is the problem. This battery is a mate threat, and black needs to give up the exchange, which he did. Took on b1 and played knight b2 a4. He is continuing the struggle, but white is just enjoying this extra pawn, more space, the better king position. This is too much. He improves a bit further, like that. After queen c8, white is going for the final attack with the knight being transferred to f5. This is too much now. rook b4 threatening rook b8, and if black now takes on c6, there's this fork winning. Yeah, played queen a6, and now after knight fe7, knight is resigned. This is just too much of a threat. If black takes on c6,
check.
There's rook b8. This is an additional problem, and white wins everything. It's probably a forced mate. I didn't check that, but you win all pieces almost. So a very strange game, with Van Vele being, I guess, a bit lucky after he gave up the exchange for at first insufficient compensation, but he got enough play to justify it later. Okay, let's go to the next game. Dominguez against Wesley So. Here we go. We have e4, and we got the Petrov, or Russian defense, and Dominguez plays the 5 knight c3 line. Nowadays probably the main line of the Petrov. It really has become the most popular line after years of d4 being the main move. One point of this is that in this structure, white very often has a simple, straightforward plan going for a kingside attack. I don't want to focus too much on the details of the opening. White's general play is long castles and then something like h4, bishop d3, knight g5, trying to attack the king side. So it's playing the move b6 here. I guess this is not new, but I'm not an, let's rephrase this. I'm not an expert on the Petrov really, so I'm not a big authority here, but I have the suspicion that this b6 plan is a bit slow. I mean, it shouldn't lose the game or anything, but this, what black is doing, seems a tad slow to me. He's trying to regroup the knight to f6 to defend. We see that bishop d3 and knight to g5, and Dominguez is playing bishop d4. Yeah, this activates the bishop, putting some pressure on the knight, and this type of attack is coming. Played c5, very direct play, gaining the bishop pair. And now queen f4, nearing the black, putting the queen near the black king. Knight g5 is an idea, or the pawn pushes. They are all interesting. Played d5. Yeah, not bad certainly, at least it looks logical. And now h5, rook e8, and g4. This is all, I think, pretty logical play. White is playing on the king side anyway, so he pushes the pawns there. And now it's black's turn. He needs to defend precisely, and I think that even, or let's say exactly, the next move that Wesley So is playing, I think exactly this move is already the losing one. It's already very tense, this position. He played g6, which it always looks a bit weird to move a pawn in front of your king and sort of present the opponent with some hook for an attack. Therefore g6 is a bit of a strange move, but it's very difficult to look at this type of position with any general consideration. Moves are working or not working, and g6 is not working. Probably what he should have done is to play d4. But let's focus on what happened after g6, because the punishment is really swift and very nice. Okay, took on g6. And now g5, attacking the bishop. It's retreating to g7. And now, if you want, you can treat this position as a puzzle. Try to find the best attacking move now for Lenier Dominguez from Cuba. White's next move is basically winning the game, and it's really nice. Okay, I'm quiet for a couple of seconds so that you can pause the video if you like. Treat it as a puzzle. Okay, the move that White played now is the very nice Rook h7. This is always funny to have this kind of rook move right into the opponent's camp, and it's not capturing anything. This would be a nice move if White would capture a pawn on h7, for example, but it's just putting the rook right near the opponent and sort of saying, okay, take it, take it. Yeah, well, of course, if black takes it, which he didn't do that. If he takes, there's queen f7, and rook h1 is such a big threat. It's really checkmate now. Checkmate in 4 moves. Black can do this kind of desperado moves like rook e1, but basically rook h1 checkmate is unavoidable now. So black cannot take the rook. That is relatively quickly to spot. But what's the real issue? Yeah, the issue is that White is threatening just to play rook h1, queen h4, rook h8 checkmate, or rook g7 and so on. It's just a tripling on the h-file, and black is really helpless against that. He played d4, the move that he should have played a bit earlier, and White can simply respond with bishop c4. Yeah, threatening on f7. Black covered that, and after this White has, amongst others, this move. This was played. Queen h2 also wins. It was already more than one move that leads to a win. But this is a very direct move. It threatens rook takes g7 and also rook h1, which is the most direct, I guess. If black takes, just for example, we have
check.
This one.
Check. Check. Check.
And White is winning. This is too much. This is the threat. Bishop f7 and queen h7 and queen h8 checkmate. Absolutely no way to defend it. White is mating in a couple of moves here. So black cannot take on f3. And there simply is no move. This line that I just showed, it's just one possible win. If black would take here, for example,
check, check.
Just to show, there's also this one. Queen h8 mate, unavoidable. Yeah, it's just a deadly attack, and it shows that in those very sharp positions with opposite side castling, just one move like g6 here can cost the game. It's really too much now. Rook h7 is just very strong because it combines this threat of doubling with rook takes g7, and black is just toast here. Yeah, Dominguez is having a good tournament. He could have been even more successful at in some games, and maybe really could fight with Aronian for the title of this tournament, for the win. Okay, next game, Karjakin against Gelfand. Yeah, Karjakin having a so-so tournament, not brilliant but not terrible, and Gelfand is really having a terrible event. He's not in good shape at all, and still we see that he's going for the knight off. He's really returned to his old favorite, the Najdorf Sicilian. He's also playing the Sveshnikov, of course, both very sharp openings. And for a while he also championed the Petrov, but Karjakin has an excellent score against the Petrov, so maybe this is also why he went for one of his sharper repertoire choices. Gelfand really unjustified this opinion. Sometimes has the reputation of being a somewhat boring player. I'm really not sure why. Sometimes I read that, and he's playing really sharp openings, especially with black. Okay, the Najdorf. Karjakin plays h3. A little move. Old favorite of Bobby Fischer's. Fischer played it a couple of times, and it just prepares g4. It's a sort of a somewhat slower Keres attack. And black responds with the typical Najdorf move e5 after knight de2. White's intention is to play g4, knight g3, bishop g2, this kind of setup, building up on the king side, but still keeping the option open of castling short. Gelfand plays the fashionable move h5. Really interesting, this approach, and it's pretty typical for modern opening play in the Sicilian, where White's plan is very often connected to the g4 advance, and more we see that black plays relatively early h5 to prevent g4. This is one case where this is a pretty nowadays standard positional tool. Yeah, White is going for the kingside fianchetto. This makes lots of sense. b5, bishop g5. Yeah, trying to increase control over the d5 square. Knight d7. And all this looks fairly logical to me. Rook c8. Yeah, all quite normal. Here, Karjakin takes on e7. This is a decision that at first looks a bit strange, because the e7 bishop is not really looking like a great piece. But of course, black was threatening to take on d5 with material wins. And what was White's great moves beside knight takes e7? He simply needs to defend against this knight takes d5 threat. So he took on e7 and continued with a good move, h4. h4 is interesting. This prepares, amongst others, to place the bishop on h3. This makes lots of sense, because on h3 this bishop is on a good diagonal, pinning, and this type of position is well known from other openings, where this knight is pinned and the bishop on, no, let's like this. We have those two bishops pressurizing the knights, and it very often leads to a weakening of the pawn structure, as a capture of one of the knights leads to double pawns. We see this structure arising in the game later. He played knight b6, queen d3, queen c7, and bishop h3. Here we go. And in fact, I think that here is one point where Gelfand can improve. He played rook to b8, just going away from the attack of the bishop. I think he should have played knight fd7. I know that this is not a move that you probably play with great enthusiasm, but in the game, which is the alternative after the rook move, White took on f6, and I don't really like the structure. Of course, if you play the Sveshnikov, you are sort of used to having slightly fishy pawn structures on the king side. But the problem is that here you also have h5 played, and it's very difficult to imagine where black's king in the long run will find a safe haven. It's very difficult. If the pawn would still be on h7, you could imagine that black is maybe even castling short, but this is completely impossible with the pawn on h5. And I really don't like black's position here. Long castles, b4, knight d5. White could also consider to play a3 instead of long castles, but I don't think that this was a mistake. He just transposes to a different pawn structure. Yeah, now we have the bishop trade, not immediately, but it will happen. And white attacks the mentioned weakened pawn structure with f4. And always think about your king position. Where is black's king going to find a safe spot? It's very difficult to find one, simply because so many pawns have moved and have left weaknesses in your camp, while the white king on c1 is completely secure, can even do this typical prophylactic sidestep to b1, and then it has a perfect pawn cover and is just perfectly safe. And yeah, well, this is the real problem here. Black has not, I think, does not have enough dynamism in the position to justify his bad structure and bad king. Have the straight and king f8. He's trying to get it to g7. White took, and now with rook h2, this rook enters the game again. We have a good and simple attacking plan on the f-file. Around here, white must be in excellent shape. Played king g7, rook f2, and rook h6. And around here, I must admit that I'm a bit surprised at about the next couple of moves. I really would have expected white to focus on the kingside attack, playing something like rook d to f1 here, and just trying to break through on the king side. I don't know, maybe f6 is necessary. And then you have various ideas, rook f5, g4. I don't know. I mean, I would have focused on the king side, but Kayakin is doing something entirely different. He just grabs the pawn. I'm not saying that it's a bad move. In fact, the computer just prefers queen a6. But I'm not sure I like the general idea to grab material now, when he could have just have an attack without any particular counterplay. Gelfand played b3. And captured on b3 with the rook, using the pin, so white cannot not take, of course. Yeah, now Kayakin continues with queen c6. This, it seems, was the idea. And maybe he didn't appreciate the response, and I'm not sure that he willingly got into the position that arises now. Queen a7 is Gelfand's move, and in fact, after the upcoming transformation, I don't think the position is so clear. He now took on f7, getting at least a pawn for the rook. The capture, by the way, is not good at all. Here it's even questionable if it is still something for white. Black has immediate ideas as well. This is why he just grabbed this pawn and then took on b3. If we do a simple body count here, white is pawn up, but 2 pawns even, but it's not a matter of quantity all the time, but also of quality. The g pawn is not really doing much at the moment. It is hemmed in by the h5 pawn, And white has two b pawns, in itself not too great, this double pawn. And the b pawn, being a passer, is very far away from queening. I don't think that this position is so clear, actually. And I think Gelfand could have defended much better. In the next couple of moves, there are alternatives for both sides. But I think in general it was okay. Black tried to stay active. Yeah, like here, not trading queens, of course, which would very much improve white's chances. The white king now in all this is also weakened a lot in comparison to before, when only black's king was a problem. Yeah, rook d3 covering here. Now Gelfand played rook f6. And king b1, trying to secure the king a bit. Yeah, and exactly here, I think, is the real problem. Gelfand here played queen g1 check, and this seems to help white enormously. He probably should have played queen e2 with the idea to activate the rook here, or rook f1 and then the queen back. This is, it seems, at least according to the computer, a tougher defense. I'm not sure that this is saving black or anything, but it's tougher than what he played.
Check.
As mentioned, he gave the check, and now king a2. It's difficult now. How should black proceed? White
Check.
gets the king to b3, and this is really helpful. The king is relatively safe here, and in fact white is close to just advancing the pawn. He played rook f1, and now rook f3. Here black only had one only had one move, still not a saving move, but he needed to trade here. What he did is he played rook a1. This looks like a logical move, trying to harass the king, but in fact after queen e3, simple but very effective, white is threatening queen g5 check, and yeah, black can give this check on a4 or on a2, but after both moves, let's say here,
Check.
there's king c3, and there's no check here. The important c1 square is protected. The queen does not have any check, and after
Check.
this is just the same. There's no check for black, and white is winning with this decisive threat. This means that after queen e3, Gelfand must trade queens, and well, he did that. Unfortunately, this is now a complete win, as the b pawn is supported by the king now. If the king would be further down, it's a different story. But here it is very simple technical play. White just wins easily. Black only can push the pawn. It's the only source of some counterplay. And here we get to this typical position. The rook is covering on the 4th rank, and it's stopping the black king from doing anything active. And white just uses the king. I'm not quite sure why I'm going via d2. He can also go here, of course, and use the king to push the b pawn. And this is what happens.
Check.
Here we go.
Check. Check.
Yeah, and this is now very clear, covering everything. Black only continued a couple of more moves and now resigned. This is just completely hopeless. If he goes rook b4,
check,
there's this check, and white takes the pawn. Yeah, this is an easy win now. He can win in various ways. Even you can probably the easiest technically is to get the h pawn and win with the two connected passes. But you can also probably just promote the b pawn. Yeah, Gelfand is just in bad shape in this tournament. In this type of very concrete sharp position, a small misstep in calculation can easily cost the whole game, and this was happening here. So good win and important win for Kayakin, but Gelfand is just further losing rating points here with really having a bad event. Okay, next game, Giri against Aronian. Aronian is in the lead, of course, and Giri is one of the pursuers, and a win, of course, would help him enormously. Let's check the game. We have Catalan opening again. Aronian playing the Queen's Gambit declined, and one slight thing to note is that he's going for the Queen's Gambit declined via the Knight f6 e6 move order, which is nothing spectacular. This is the most common move order nowadays, but it also shows that Aronian has switched a bit of his move orders. Earlier, let's say 2 years ago, or even 1 year ago, he was very often going to the Queen's Gambit with this move order, and he lost quite a number of games in the exchange variation here, this type of exchange, against Nakamura, against Carlsen, and so on. He really didn't have a good score, and it seems that he has abandoned this move order in favor of starting with Knight f6 and e6, therefore including the Nimzo in his repertoire. But after Knight f3, like here, going to the Queen's Gambit. Okay, slight detour to the details of opening prep. Okay, g3. We have the Catalan again. Popular choice nowadays. Very safe opening. Aronian is playing the main line, and this has been his defense against the Catalan for ages. And he rarely loses with the opening. Wins once in a while, but mostly he uses it to draw, which is in general okay for black, of course. Queen c2, a6, and now Giri playing a4. Here we already have seen in this tournament also Queen c4 or a4. a4 keeps a bit more pieces on the board, and in general is less of a technical continuation. All very natural developing moves. Black has activated his problem bishop with the has activated it via d7 c6. Very important, and we have good development here. And a5. Yeah, here black, I think, has a pretty decent position. This has been played before, and black has more than one good setup. He's going for Queen e7. This is further strengthening control over the b4 square, and white cannot really play that move. He's going for trades. Yeah, this is in fact an interesting reply. The most obvious one actually would have been to take, and then go for a free move like c5 or e5. I think that this also was very close to being equal, but bishop d5 is an interesting alternative. It's simply attacking the queen, quite obviously, and where is the queen supposed to go? You don't really have a great square. He decided to take it at the end, and we have this transformation where white got the d5 pawn, black got the e2 pawn. It's materially equal, but knight e4 now is attacking the bishop, And Aronian is just accepting. Yeah, after a couple of tempo gains. And now Giri is playing for to continue the game. What Aronian is doing, he's accepting a position where White has some pressure against those pawns. And okay, at the moment he's got an extra pawn, but this is not a very durable fact. It's just very quickly happening that Black is going to lose one of the pawns, and he is somewhat worse because White has more activity. But let's say Rook e8, Rook f1. Yeah, it's not a spectacular move, but where to go? You don't want to exchange and give Black immediate counterplay. This is why Rook f1 was played. Queen e4, and now we get to the Rook endgame. Those are somewhat weaker than d4 and a5. Therefore, White has some edge, but I don't think it's a serious one. The computer is giving White quite something, but I don't really believe it. Black is too active to be in real trouble, and we see that with Rook e4. He is quickly gaining counterplay. Now this is counterplay that Black is going for. Rook b6 and Rook c2. In fact, there are some tricks in this position that are quite remarkable. Rook d3 and g5. In this position, how would you assess the move Rook takes a6 for White? If you want a little puzzle, try to calculate the consequences of Rook takes a6. I'll give you a couple of seconds to pause the video. Yeah, what do you think about Rook a6? What happens after this move? Yeah, the fun fact is that after Rook e1 check, King g2, there's g4, and this position is not even a draw for White. He's just losing due to the Rook c1 threat. Rook c1 and Rook g1 checkmate. Black has no defense, absolutely no defense against that. He's just flat out losing. After h3 there's h5, and Black simply is going for this mating attack. White cannot defend against it. His rooks are so badly placed that you have no way to prevent mate, or the loss of both rooks or something. It's just lost. So Rook takes a6 is not on. He played h3 and now h5. Of course, again, Rook a6 is losing to
check,
to that one. So he played Rook f3, even trying to get for some counterplay or intending Rook f5. Yeah, we have g4 and Rook f4. Yeah, Black is also attacking d4. This is why he covered. Takes and Rook a2. At the end, White actually managed to get the a6 pawn, but in the process we see that Black has this active rook and he's got this king activation. I don't think White has any serious winning chances here. And in fact, in the game we see that Aronian really easily manages to draw, gets the king into the game here, threatening some counterplay ideas.
Check.
Yeah, again. And now the king returns to stop or help stopping the pawns. Here's the counterplay. Rook a3 check also.
Check.
Yeah, we get a... Yeah, goes here. Could have taken f5, of course, but after Rook a6 we get to a completely drawn Rook endgame. White can win the pawn, but of course Black is controlling the game easily, being in front of the pawn. This was played. And in fact here even they drew. There's simply no progress to be made. White also cannot get the king into the play as
check,
f2 is hanging. Yeah, I think Aronian didn't really have big problems here. It was slightly inconvenient, but I don't think White had any direct winning chances. So he gets a pretty okay draw here, and he keeps the lead by that draw, of course. Okay, next game, Caruana against Rapport, a creative Hungarian, and I actually I played through the moves without seeing the complete score sheet, and I was thinking, okay, let's see, at which move is he going to play some crazy line that no one is going to expect, and it was relatively quickly. Here, on move 4, he went for this, a very uncommon subvariation of the Rubinstein French. It looks a bit weird, especially if you compare it to the Bronstein-Larsen Caro-Kann, where we have a similar idea, but there the pawn is on e7 and the pawn is, of course, not here, on c6, typical Caro-Kann structure. Here the bishop on c8 is just looking at the silly e6 pawn, and just looks like a very bad version of the mentioned opening. But there is a difference, and we see this rather quickly. Knight f3, and he plays knight c6. And this is the difference. Of course, you can develop the knight actively and even think about a move e6, e5 in some positions. In fact, I think that Caruana's next move is not precise. He probably should play something like bishop e3, yeah, or bishop d3. He played bishop f4, and here black has a good reply, funny enough. He can play, and he did play, e6, e5. It's always a bit embarrassing. You play a move like bishop f4, like, I'm controlling the e5 square, nice, huh? And then e5 is played anyway. The point is that after d takes e5, that Caruana didn't even play, after d takes e5, black has the move queen e7, and this is just good. I mean, he's threatening or intending to play f takes e5, and white really has no good move to prevent that. He can he can play something like queen e2, protecting e5, but then there's, oops, not this,
check.
Then there's this big check here, forcing bishop d2, and after queen b2, black is just in excellent shape.
Check.
White can take with check, but bishop e6 and long castles with an excellent position. The queen is really silly on e2 now. Yeah, it's really a bit of an embarrassment that e5 was possible, but Caruana just retreated to e3, and it continues the game. It's not a big problem. However, bishop f4 certainly wasn't the best move. In this position, black went for bishop g4, and now bishop to b5. Around here, maybe there are some improvements for black. I mean, you need to start to look for some improvements, because only a couple of moves later, black is in serious trouble. And I don't believe he should be, because bishop f4 allowing e5 certainly wasn't the most testing continuation. Here, a possible or interesting line is queen to d5. This is very complicated though, and not easy to assess over the board. Especially considering c4, after which queen e4 of course must be played. I think that this is in fact quite okay for black, but it is complicated. I'm not 100% sure that my rather brief analysis is really exhaustive here. One point here is of course that d5, which looks like a good pin, is answered by long castles, and of course white cannot take, and a move like bishop c6.
Check.
Yeah, note the various pins here is leading to immediate disaster. Yeah, white must be cautious here. And well, he can play a move like h3, for example, bishop h5. And now consider various continuations. Can simply take if you want, keeping it relatively simple, but rook d8, for example, is certainly active for black. I don't think he needs to be afraid of this position at all. Maybe queen d5 was a good way to play. He played queen d6, preparing long castles as well, but it's not gaining a tempo, of course. I mean, okay, this is also a threat, but queen d5 was, I think, just a bit better. c3, bolstering the center and keeping queen b4 out of the game. Yeah, here he played the move e4. Again, even if it's a tempo down, queen d5 was interesting. But a human is not going to play queen d6 and then continuing queen d5. It's not very human, this decision. He played e4, but this definitely leads to trouble. And because of two things. I mean, one thing is what Caruana played, which is probably not optimal, but still okay. The other thing is d5. It's a direct line that I think leads to trouble for black. It's basically forced now to, yeah, I think it's almost forced to take here after the capture. Then b6. White just is better in this position for various reasons or various moves. He can, for instance, play g3, and I know this is looking very funny, but the main problem is in the long run that white will have the better king, and he's got very good chances in this structure to attack the c7 pawn, while black has no comparable counterplay against f2. If we see this kind of configuration as being almost symmetrical. This was interesting, d5, probably leading to a white edge. He played h3, which also led to a white edge, but only because Report now took on f3. I think he probably should have retreated. After knight d2, white is also better, but I think it's less dramatic than the position that he got in the game. Just have a look what happened. He took, as mentioned, takes here, takes g2 and rook g1, and here we can see that the g2 pawn is doomed. It will be taken in very short order. Then we have material equality, but in a position where white has got two bishops and the better pawn structure and the better king. At least in a couple of moves white's king will be more secure, and this is just not a satisfactory position for black. We quickly see that he's in really big trouble. Yeah, white has gotten the pawn back, and what exactly is black's play? It's very difficult to find any active possibility. The two pawns here are easily stopped by the g pawn, and oops, nope. This also applies for the h pawn. It also cannot move as white just takes. It's just not good, this position for black. Played knight d5, and after bishop e4, after king d8, bishop b2. In fact, in this position, black went for drastic measures. He simply decided that passive move is not working, and decided to give up the b7 pawn. One problem, of course, is let's say you want to protect the d5 knight with a move like c6. Yeah, this is not going to work in the long run because of these kind of ideas. c4, bishop f4. Yeah, black is in trouble. He played knight b6, giving up the b7 pawn in order to, after bishop b7, play knight c4, trying to irritate white. But Caruana is doing a really good job to just keep every keep his position well coordinated, so black does not get any good counterplay. Rook b2 is very easy. Queen b2 answered by rook b1 is very easy to see. And he tried to get some play, but it really didn't work out. Can just take everything.
Check.
Yeah, white is, I think, 2 pawns up. Yeah, 2 pawns, but not only that. Look at the structure and look at the king. White's king is relatively safe. He has little pawn cover, but he's got lots of pieces around it, and black does not really have any counterplay against the king. Yeah, this is now a fairly easy demonstration by Karjakin using the rooks. Before one thread. And after this, he resigned. Rapport resigned. Many ways to win. One funny line is if black, let's say, let's do a zero move. This is stupid. It's even take it. Let's say like this. There's just queen a6. Yeah, and this is also a win, of course.
Checkmate.
Funny mate. Yeah, this is just a very smooth win for Caruana against Rapport. Yeah, his creative opening play is once in a while really leading him into trouble, or at least it leads to positions where you cannot afford to make any second-rate decision, like here. I think queen d6 almost certainly led to trouble. With queen d5, it is an interesting position. However, this only was possible because bishop f4 was a bit of a suboptimal move because of e5. Yeah, so good win for Caruana. He's fighting for the top standings with this win, and Rapport losing yet another game. I don't think he's completely unsatisfied with this event. Reports it's just new for him to play this kind of tough opposition, and I think it's not a bad thing that he's trying to fight with all opponents and trying to play creatively. Sometimes you see younger players who get to play this very strong events for the first time, playing in a more passive fashion, not trying to really fight, trying to draw many games, not losing many games. He's just fighting and trying his best. So certainly an interesting player to watch. Okay, one game left. Hare Krishna against Nakamura. Let's go to that one. And we have a Sicilian. And Nakamura probably aiming for the knight off. But
check.
Bishop b5 check. Yeah, that's how the Sicilian is played nowadays. Very often you get sidelines, and all the work you maybe have invested in your favorite dragon or Najdorf is very often just useless because they go for sidelines, and they are not really bad, those sidelines. Nakamura is playing knight d7. This is one of the fighting moves. Bishop d7 is the main move here, with admittedly pretty good equalizing chances, but it's also not a move that you can really fight with. It's very dull sometimes. Therefore, knight d7. Hare Krishna castles, and after a6, he plays the funky move bishop d3. Yeah, this has recently become popular. There's a game Carlsen against, I think it was Swidler. I'm trying to remember from which tournament. I don't think it was the candidates. Or was it? No, it was not the candidates, of course. The white game against Swidler was the final round game that Magnus lost. This Rui Lopez. Okay, so it was from some other tournament last year. I think it was this Norway tournament, the Stavanger tournament. Okay, what I'm getting at is bishop d3, while looking a bit strange, placing it in front of the d pawn. It has some idea, of course, and we see this later. Or let's say quite here. White is regrouping the bishop to c2 and intending d4. In fact, this whole structure, if you look at this, is very similar to the Lopez. It's only a bit different in terms of tempi invested. Black has the knight on d7. Very often in the Rui Lopez, for instance, in the Breyer variation, you have to play knight c6 back to b8 and then to d7. In fact, looking at this, all this is totally standard. This position is very similar to the Breyer. Maybe I should have pulled up the position from the Rui to check the exact difference, because there's not a huge difference. White has not played h3, for example. Yeah, what are the plans? Maybe we should put up the next move, g6 and b3. Yeah, here there are various plans possible. The beauty of the Rui Lopez for both colors is that there are so many plans available and so many transformations of the pawn structure are happening or need to be considered all the time. Yeah, black has one natural break in this position, and this is f5, the typical King's Indian type of break. But note that it is super difficult in this position to achieve, simply because white has so many pieces on the f5 square and the bishop on b7 is not exactly well placed for that. So you don't have a very active pawn break. f5 is not realistic. What is black supposed to do? Yeah, normally you try to improve your position a bit by going for c4, for instance, playing knight c5. You sometimes can try to exchange the bishop on f8 via h6. These are plans that black can go for. And white has more than one plan. He can try to attack the queen side with a4, combine that with bishop d3, pressurizing b5. Or he can try to play on the king side. For example, especially in the Rui position where h3 is played, you can play h3, knight h2, and f4, going for this break. And in the game, we quite quickly get a crisis on the queen side, as Nakamura is playing knight b6, rook b1, and then c4. He immediately goes for some play on the queen side. This is very typical of his play. He does not really like it much to employ a sit and wait strategy. Of course, this in general applies for most modern top players. They don't like to stay put much and just keep the position as is, trying to outmaneuver, outweight the opponent. This does not happen so often. They always try to play actively. I'm not sure that this really is a great decision, but he does not want to stay passive. Takes and a4. This is why I think this may be a debatable decision. b5 is a weakness, and black very quickly now goes for a pawn sack. It's almost impossible to keep the pawn now. He gave it up like that and played knight a3. Maybe this was the plan all along with c4. After this, the alternative was to take here. But how do you keep the pawn now? I guess you don't. So rook back. and takes. So for the pawn, black has managed to get this important c2 bishop, the Spanish bishop, and he's got the bishop pair. But I don't really believe that this is such a great compensation, simply because this bishop, okay, you can activate that, but what are you going to do with the f8 bishop? This is simply a rather passive piece, and it's not easily activated. It feels a bit like a purely defensive pawn sacrifice, trying to maybe blockade the queen side and activate the bishops later. I don't think it's entirely unplayable, but it's not something that Nakamura would probably repeat if he has the position again. So after knight d7 and bishop e3, black activates the bishop as mentioned. One pair of rooks is exchanged. Yeah, all this is fairly logical. Queen c8 and h3. It's not so easy for white to make any very concrete progress, because this is quite nicely blockaded still. But I think white is still enjoying an easy game. After knight b6 and this activation, and here bishop h6, we reach a critical position of the game. Yeah, what should Nakamura do now? It seems that he needs to react to white's attacking idea, to play like this knight g5 or knight h5. Those moves are interesting, and in fact knight h5 is a threat that he fails to address. He should have played here rook a8, getting rid of this active rook. After the capture, it may be white captures here, something like that. White is better simply because of the pawn. He maybe should also win this in the long run, possibly, but it's something that you still can try to defend as black. What he played is queen c5, looking like an active move, but it's just losing instantly due to this strong reply. As mentioned, this was a threat, but it is a threat that Nakamura didn't really address. And the big point is, of course, after queen a7, there's this check and bishop f8, and it's just this move followed by queen h7 that is completely impossible to defend against. Black can just resign in this position. Yeah. Knight h5. He tried bishop g7, very desperate move. Bishop takes, and now taking here, because now, of course, after the check, black takes on g7 and wins. But there is an alternative, of course, just queen h6. Yeah, and here, oops, sorry, the big threat is knight f6, checkmate, of course. So if he takes on h5, this knight g5, threatening mate. So at the end he played the move f5, which, however, after knight g5 does not save. It's quite funny to see that white has this cluster of attacking pieces, and queen h7 checkmate is simply unavoidable. The only moves to avoid the immediate mate are the computer style desperado moves that let white take two moves longer to checkmate. So Nakamura is continuing to have a bad tournament. I don't know, somehow he's got this record rating 2789, and he had this rating I'm not sure, but 1 year ago or so. He had just 1 or 2 points below that, and then he had some bad events and lost all those points again. And somehow we have the same situation here. He was really nearing the 2,800 mark, and now with this tournament he's going to lose many points, as he with this rating should have had an event with let's say +2 or +3 points to be expected, and now he's on -2 if I'm not mistaken, if not -3. I think it's -2. Well, I would need to look it up, but he's really having a bad event, losing many points. And a nice win here for Hare Krishna, but not too difficult. Knight h5 is certainly a move that he quickly spotted, or even had planned beforehand, of course. Yeah, we had a really good round again with 5 decisive games, all wide wins. And only one draw by Giri and Aronian. All games interesting, so a good event. Tomorrow we have another rest day, so I have no coverage tomorrow, but I will return with more coverage from Tata Steel round 9 then on Thursday, the 23rd, if I'm not mistaken. Thanks for watching.